Our stewardship campaign continues, and Anna Floch-Arcello has answered our call. Please, Anna, thank you.
Good morning. I spent a lot of time at the edges of Christ Church before ever stepping foot into this chapel. My daughter Ruby attended community preschool found just downstairs for a year when she was 4 years old, and all the parents take on jobs to help the community of the school. One of my first jobs was to clean the classrooms here once a month. So when it was my turn to clean, I would wake up early on a Saturday morning and I would head downstairs. I would open the janitor's closet near the boiler room. I'm not sure if you've been there, but it's quite a journey. Taking out the vacuums and the sprays. I would clean the floor of the classroom, picking up little crumbs of Play-Doh and glitter, and I would dust and clean the bathrooms in the hallways and organize the plastic kitchen food. On certain days while volunteering there or in my daughter's classroom, I would hear a stray organ note or choral arrangement float down to greet me, but I never made it upstairs. For those who don't know my background here, I've been a member for about 18 months, and I'm a fairly new Episcopalian as these things go. I loved hearing last week about Randy Dean's story of growing up in this church, the tenderness of imagining him as that little baptized baby, a cornerstone to this community. I think my story might represent the other people the church was built for, the unknown people, the neighbors who wander in the door with their burdens, who might come for the meditation or quiet or God, but stay for the communal care. I was raised in Holland, Michigan in a Presbyterian church, and I moved away to New York City for college, where I met my husband Aaron, and then we moved to Madison. And today we have two very lovely active kids. If you haven't seen them, you've heard them. Okay, Ollie is 7 and Ruby's 6. And I'm a writing teacher and a writer, and I just wanted to share a little bit about how I first came here and why I stayed. I also happen to be squarely in a generation of young people who left the church for a while, and some for good. As writer Rachel Held Evans writes in her book, Searching for Sunday, in the US, 59% of young people ages 18 to 29 with a Christian background have dropped out of church. It's estimated that 8 million young adults will leave the church before their 30th birthday. Though this was written before the pandemic, the trend remains. There are many reasons for this decline, too many to speak about here, but one particularly impactful point she makes is that we all of us, want to bring our whole, beautiful, human, broken selves to this place. Millennials, she writes, aren't looking for a hipper Christianity. We're looking for a truer one, a more authentic faith. This resonates, and for me, my own leaving was gradual. Some of it was practical, the natural order of growing older and moving into different phases of life, and some were more philosophical. As I grew up, I experienced people around me weaponizing faith and belief to exclude others, to divide and to judge, and I found that diametrically opposed to the reasons that I wanted to go to church. I wanted then, and I still want now, church to be a place for our most complex inner questions, for the potential of God's non-judgmental, all-encompassing love. Many years and many moves later, we eventually moved to Whitefish Bay and began to build a life here. Shortly thereafter, in April of 2021, a good friend of ours was killed on his motorcycle coming home from work. A group of us were all at the soccer field playing with our kids and waiting for them to arrive, but he never made it. His wife spoke to me later about the excruciating moment of watching the cop walk up to the door, about how it was an eternity, about how she already knew. I have witnessed and been close enough to tragedy, and maybe you have too, to know that feeling of time stopping, and to understand the feeling of living in the before and the after. The call my friend made soon after the calls to her family were to her minister, a trusted friend who came to her side and walked with her through the darkest hours and days of her loss. As I worked with a group of friends to support her and come to her aid in the coming weeks, I silently, internally wondered, where did my own faith lie? Who would I spiritually call upon if this were me? I held that question for a long time, and a year later, the following April, I finally made it inside this church. But first, I sat outside of it. I was once again volunteering in my daughter's class at Community when I got a call from my mom that my beloved grandmother was passing away. I had just seen her a week before, where she presented me with small gifts and mementos in the hospital and assured me she would come home. My grandmother, a faithful Christian and choral singer and pianist, loved music, and I was able to hear the songs being sung to her in the hospital as she took some of her final breaths. I sat outside on a bench in the garden, right outside these doors, in the cold April wind, listening from afar and staring at the cross at the top of the building. There is, of course, a divinity and cosmic timing to all things. I like to say that my grandma brought me back to church, and in a way she did. The Sunday after she passed, my dear friend Ingrid Davis, a longtime member here, encouraged me to come in. I showed up for the first time during Easter season, and I've tried to show up ever since, because in this place I found a spiritual home. I found a connection with Nancy, Oswald, and Seth, with the Sunday school programming and music, with the friends that I've made in contemplative group and the groups that I've participated in online. I found a connection to the words spoken at the pulpit and prayers, and to the ancient words, practices, and rhythms that define this place. We can ask many dynamic questions about what makes us leave a place, but perhaps a more potent question during the stewardship season is what makes us stay. One of my favorite aspects of the church calendar is that the longest liturgical season, 33 weeks, is spent in ordinary time. The church is not, as we imagine, defined by the large religious holidays and feasts, but by the ordinary, just like in our own lives. Showing up at church or to a committee, or to wash a dish, or polish, or clean, or provide flowers, or volunteer, or donate, or sing a song, or listen to the story of someone you don't know, is the ministry of the ordinary. And it's through these ordinary acts of service that we plant roots, that we grow something deeper, that we build community, that we transform grief through love, that we find God. It's through your work and generosity that I was able to walk through those doors and feel immediately welcomed. So, in this season of brokenness, pain, and complexity in our wider world, and in this season of stewardship and hope here in this church, I think my hope is for all of us to step inside and discern how to participate in the ministry of the ordinary. May we all find a way to sustain this place through the extraordinary, gentle work of faith, to tend to it for our children, for our neighbors, for those we may never meet. May we all find a way in our own way to step inside and follow those notes of music up the stairs. Thank you.